The Council of the European Union, often simply called the Council, is one of the EU's two main legislative bodies, alongside the European Parliament. It represents the governments of the EU member states, with each country sending a minister to represent it depending on the policy area being discussed. The Council is not structured as a hierarchy in the legal sense, but as an intergovernmental decision-making body where member states act as equals in law, even if their political weight and influence differ in practice. Each member state is represented by its government, and the specific minister attending a council meeting depends on the subject under discussion. For example, finance ministers meet in the Economic and Financial Affairs Council, foreign ministers meet in the Foreign Affairs Council, and agriculture ministers meet in the Agriculture and Fisheries Council. This structure reflects the Council's role as a collection of policy-specific formations rather than a single unified institution with a fixed membership. At the top of the Council structure is the rotating presidency, which changes every 6 months and is held by a member state. The presidency is responsible for organizing meetings, setting agendas, and facilitating negotiations between member states. However, the presidency does not have legal authority over other member states. Its role is one of coordination and mediation rather than hierarchy. Supporting this role is the General Secretariat of the Council, which provides administrative and logistical assistance to ensure the smooth functioning of the institution. A key element of the Council's structure is the COREPER system, Committee of Permanent Representatives. COREPER is made up of the permanent representatives, ambassadors, of each member state to the EU, who prepare the work of the Council at a technical and diplomatic level. COREPER negotiates compromises and resolves many issues before they reach ministerial level, allowing the Council to function more efficiently. In legal terms, all member states within the Council are equal. Each state has one seat at the table, and decisions are made through different voting procedures depending on the issue. The most common method is qualified majority voting, QMV, where decisions require a combination of a majority of member states and a majority of the EU population. Some sensitive areas, such as foreign policy or taxation, require unanimity, meaning that every member state must agree. This ensures that no single country can dominate the decision-making process, but it also means that each country has a veto in certain policy areas. There is no fixed political agenda in the Council in the same way as in a political party or a government. Instead, the Council's agenda is shaped by the interests and priorities of member states, as well as by the proposals coming from the European Commission and the legislative priorities negotiated with the European Parliament. Each member state approaches negotiations with its own national interests, political priorities, and domestic constraints. Despite the absence of a formal hierarchy, influence within the Council can vary significantly in practice. Larger or more populous member states often have greater political and diplomatic weight due to their economic size, population, or geopolitical importance. However, smaller member states can still exert considerable influence, particularly through coalition building, expertise, or leadership in specific policy areas. The Council is therefore characterized by a balance between formal equality and practical asymmetry of influence. The Council plays a central role in shaping EU legislation. Together with the European Parliament, it adopts laws proposed by the European Commission. In this process, the Council represents the position of the member states, while the Parliament represents EU citizens. The two institutions must agree on the final text of legislation, often through a process of negotiation known as trilogues, which also involve the Commission. The Council also plays a key role in coordinating economic policies among member states, particularly within the framework of the European semester, where governments align their budgetary and economic policies with EU guidelines. In addition, the Council is responsible for concluding international agreements on behalf of the EU and plays a major role in foreign and security policy. In terms of internal dynamics, the Council relies heavily on consensus building and negotiation. Even when decisions are formally taken by majority vote, the culture of the Council encourages compromise to ensure that policies are broadly acceptable to all member states. This reflects the fundamental nature of the EU as a union of sovereign states that voluntarily cooperate while retaining their individual sovereignty. In conclusion, the Council of the European Union is an intergovernmental institution where all member states are legally equal and participate in decision-making through their national governments. There is no formal hierarchy among member states within the Council, and no country holds authority over another in a legal sense. However, influence varies depending on political, economic, and diplomatic factors. The Council operates through a system of negotiation, compromise, and voting procedures that balance national interests with the collective goals of the European Union, making it a central pillar of EU governance alongside the European Parliament and the European Commission. Subscribe to this channel to keep in touch with the decisions taken by the Council of the European Union. Check out the videos on the European Commission and the European Parliament.